You know, we're all born into this curious circumstance called life. And from the very beginning, we're handed a rule book that nobody ever bothered to read. It's full of assumptions, hierarchies, expectations, and fears. You're told what's important, what's real, what's dangerous, and what's worth chasing. You're given this identity, stamped and certified, and told, here, this is you. Play accordingly. But what if that's not the truth? What if this shimmering labyrinth of sensation, memory, and meaning isn't a solemn drama after all, but a kind of game? A game so elaborate, so convincing that we mistake it for something absolute. You see, games have rules. They have roles. They have winners and losers, at least on the surface. But behind every game lies a deeper intention: to play, to experience, to move through patterns of possibility that expand the field of consciousness. And if life is a game, then most of us have been playing it on default settings. We've been running a program installed before we even learned to speak. The family, the culture, the economy, the religion, these are the preset avatars we inherit. They tell you how to dress, what to want, whom to fear, and where to belong. And like obedient little players, we accept the terms of service. But here's the thing. The game doesn't want obedience. The game wants awakening. It wants you to realize that you can rewrite the code. You can change your avatar, modify your environment, even alter the objective. Because the game, this great blooming hologram of existence, responds not to rules, but to awareness. Awareness is the ultimate cheat code. Now, when I say life is a game, I don't mean that it's frivolous or meaningless. Quite the opposite. Games are the most meaningful things we do. Play is divine. It's the language of the cosmos. The child stacking blocks, the artist painting galaxies, the scientist bending reality. Each is engaging with the same spirit of playful creation. But somewhere along the way, we forgot. We got tangled in the seriousness of the simulation. We began hoarding points, money, fame, possessions, status, believing these were the keys to victory. But the irony is that the game was never about winning. It was about playing beautifully. Imagine a symphony orchestra where every musician is trying to finish the piece first. It would be chaos. The beauty lies in the playing, the unfolding of sound through time. Life, in that sense, is more like jazz than chess. It's improvisation within the structure of chaos.
The first step to hacking this cosmic game is recognizing that it is one. You have to step back from the screen of your own narrative. Observe how you've been conditioned to respond. Notice how fear and desire steer your every move like invisible joysticks. The moment you become aware of the controls, the illusion begins to crack. It's like waking up inside a dream and realizing you can fly. You may still be in the dream, but suddenly the rules don't feel so rigid. The walls begin to shimmer. You see that what you called reality was only a particular configuration of consciousness, and that means it can be rearranged. Now, let me tell you a secret, one hidden in plain sight. The game's central mechanic is attention. Wherever your attention flows, energy follows. The game builds itself around what you choose to notice. You think you're moving through life, but in truth, life is moving through you, assembling itself according to your focus. Most people spend their attention on fear, on lack, on comparison. And so they keep reloading the same level, encountering the same enemies, trapped in the same narrative loop. They never realize that by shifting attention, by choosing curiosity over fear, wonder over judgment, they unlock entirely new terrains of possibility. You see, life is not a prison, it's a sandbox. You can sculpt it. You can tear down castles and build new ones out of moonlight. But the key is remembering that the sand itself, the very stuff of reality, is made of consciousness. Once you understand that, you begin to play differently. You stop competing and start creating. You stop defending your illusion and start exploring the unknown. You become less of a character and more of a co-author. And this is where it gets really interesting. Because once you realize you can edit the game, you have to ask yourself, what kind of world do I actually want to inhabit? Not the one your parents wanted, not the one society demands, but the one that hums with your own truth, the one that feels alive under your feet. To hack the game is to shift from survival to synchronicity. It's to stop asking, how do I win, and start asking, how do I wake up? Because the moment you wake up, you realize you were never in danger. You were never trapped. You were simply lost in the beauty of your own creation. The game is not against you. The game is you. Every obstacle is an encoded invitation to evolve. Every loss a subtle nudge toward deeper wisdom. Every so-called failure a glitch in the matrix designed to remind you that you're the coder.
And if you can hold that awareness, if you can walk through the world remembering that it's a living, breathing dream, you begin to play with elegance, with humor, with love. You start noticing patterns others ignore. The coincidences become conversations. The symbols start talking back. The universe becomes a responsive partner in the dance. So the question is not whether you're in the game. The question is, are you playing consciously, or are you still just reacting to the program? Because the difference between the two is the difference between sleep and awakening, between life as burden and life as art. I once heard someone say, we don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. There's deep truth in that. When you stop treating existence as a sacred game, you start to petrify. You become rigid. You forget the language of the soul. But play is the breath of the divine. It's the laughter of the infinite. And when you remember that, the whole game opens up again. The pixels rearrange. The sky becomes alive with possibility. So let's keep going. Let's look deeper into this strange, shimmering simulation. Let's uncover how to truly hack it, not through domination or deception, but through understanding. Because to hack life is not to manipulate it, it's to merge with it, to learn its rhythm, to dance with its code until it starts dancing back. You see, once you recognize the illusion, the next step is to learn how to play from the inside out. Now, if we're going to talk about hacking this grand, luminous game called life, we must first understand what it is that's being played. What is this field of experience we call reality? What is consciousness, and who is it that's moving the pieces? Because here's the first paradox. You are not the player you think you are. Most people identify with their avatar, the character on the screen. The name, the face, the memories, the preferences, all bundled together into a convenient package labeled me. But the avatar isn't the one playing. The avatar is being played. The player, the true self, is outside the frame. It's not bound by space or time. It's not defined by personality or history.
It's the awareness behind the eyes, the listener behind the thoughts, the still point in the spinning wheel. And that's the great cosmic joke. You've been pretending to be your own mask. You've mistaken the reflection for the being.
We live in a kind of trance, hypnotized by identity. We wake up each morning and reassemble ourselves. I'm this person, I live here, these are my problems. We scroll through memories and obligations like opening an old file. And we forget that we are not the file. We're the consciousness reading it. Now, once you catch that, once you see it, it's like discovering a back door in the code. You realize the game isn't out there, it's happening in the field of awareness itself. You are both the dreamer and the dream, the one creating the illusion and the one exploring it. Think of consciousness as a kind of infinite canvas, and reality is the painting that keeps changing depending on how you look at it. Most people stare at a single corner of the canvas their entire lives, saying, "This is all there is." But the moment you move your gaze, the whole image shifts. New forms emerge. New meanings unfold. That's the mechanics of perception. Reality is a feedback loop between your attention and the infinite creative intelligence that sustains everything. You're not observing the world. You're participating in it. You're co-creating it through the lens of your beliefs, your expectations, your emotions. And so to hack the game, you must learn how to work with this feedback loop consciously. You must become aware of how your own frequency shapes the experience that returns to you. Let me put it this way. Reality is a mirror, but it's a very strange one. It doesn't reflect what you want, it reflects what you are. If you move through the world radiating fear, it will show you reasons to be afraid. If you move through the world radiating curiosity, it will hand you mysteries to explore. The mirror never lies, because it's your own mind reflecting itself back at you in physical form. Now, this can be terrifying or liberating depending on your perspective. Terrifying if you still believe you're the avatar being battered by external forces. Liberating if you recognize that you are the field generating the entire projection. Imagine a lucid dream. You're walking through a forest and a monster appears. Most people run, but a lucid dreamer knows the monster is their own creation. It's made of the same substance as the dreamer. So instead of fleeing, they turn toward it. They embrace it. And the monster dissolves into light. That's what consciousness is doing in every moment, projecting challenges and fears as invitations to integrate the fragmented parts of itself. Life is a continuous game of remembering that you are the dreamer. Every obstacle is an encrypted clue. Every conflict, a disguised teacher. But of course, the ego doesn't like this idea. The ego wants control, not responsibility. It loves to blame, to point, to divide the world into good and bad, success and failure. It thrives on opposition. It keeps the player addicted to drama because drama feels like life. The ego's greatest fear is irrelevance, because once you realize you're not the character, the ego starts to dissolve, and it knows it. That's why awakening can feel like dying. In a sense, it is. It's the death of the illusion of separation. When you stop believing in the little story of me versus the world, you begin to sense the deeper truth. There is no versus. There's only the unfolding of consciousness exploring itself through infinite forms. You're not separate from the tree or the bird or the person you argue with. You're different expressions of the same living intelligence, pretending to be divided so that experience can occur. It's a wild thing to realize that every encounter is you meeting yourself
under another disguise. The lover, the enemy, the stranger on the street, all mirrors of the same vast awareness. It's like a cosmic masquerade ball. Everyone's wearing masks, but beneath them, it's all one face. And here's where the hacking begins to deepen. Once you see through the illusion of separateness, the rules of the game start to bend. Synchronicities multiply. Time becomes more fluid. You think of someone, and they call. You need something, and it appears. You start moving with the flow instead of against it, and life becomes less like a battle and more like a dance. Why? Because you've aligned your frequency with the underlying harmony of the universe. You're no longer trying to impose your will on reality. You're listening to it. You're attuning to its music. And that's the secret most people miss. The game isn't hacked through control. It's hacked through surrender. Not the passive kind of surrender, where you give up and drift aimlessly, but the sacred kind, the recognition that the river knows the way. When you stop fighting the current, you discover it was never trying to drown you. It was parrying you toward wider oceans. This is the paradox of mastery. The more you try to force the game, the more resistance you create. But when you relax into awareness, when you let go of the need to control outcomes, the world becomes cooperative. It becomes a living, breathing reflection of your inner clarity. So the first true hack is simple, but not easy. Stop believing everything you think. Your thoughts are like clouds drifting across the sky of consciousness. Some are bright, some are dark, but none of them define the sky itself. The sky remains untouched. If you identify with the clouds, you'll be tossed about by every storm. But if you remember you are the sky, you can watch the weather come and go with grace.
That's the art of playing consciously. To hold awareness steady, even as the game unfolds in unpredictable ways. Because the universe, my friends, is not here to make sense. It's here to be experienced, to be felt, to be played. And when you understand that, even the chaos becomes beautiful. Even the suffering becomes meaningful. It's all part of the grand improvisation of being. So perhaps the next time you catch yourself caught in the storm of life, in the arguments, the ambitions, the endless striving, remember, it's just the game. Step back, breathe, notice the player behind the play, and ask yourself, what happens if I stop reacting and start creating? Because creation is the highest form of play. It's the act of consciousness recognizing itself and saying, let's see what else I can become. And the moment you ask that question, the game responds. Now, let's wander a little deeper into the labyrinth. Let's talk about the code, the living, shimmering language that holds this whole game together. Because once you've realized that life is a game, that consciousness is the player, and that identity is just a temporary costume, the next question naturally arises. How do I interact with the code itself? How do I shape the experience from within? And here's the grand revelation. The code isn't written in words or logic. It's written in vibration. It speaks the language of feeling. You can't think your way into a new reality. You have to feel your way into it. Thought is the blueprint, yes, but emotion is the electricity that brings the structure to life.
The universe doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to the frequency you're broadcasting in each moment. That's why two people can live in the same city, walk the same streets, and yet inhabit entirely different worlds. One sees only hostility and decay. The other sees synchronicity and wonder. The difference isn't the environment, it's the calibration of consciousness. Each is living in a unique self-generated simulation. And when you really understand this, when you feel it in your bones, you realize that the ultimate technology is your own awareness. Your mind is the interface, your heart the power source, and imagination is the coding language.
You see, imagination is not some childish faculty to be discarded in adulthood. It's the workshop of the divine. It's the invisible engine that constructs the visible world. Every cathedral, every spacecraft, every poem, every civilization, each began as a flicker of imagination in the mind of some dreamer who refused to dismiss it as fantasy. In the cosmic game, imagination is how you move between levels. It's how you upgrade the simulation. When you imagine vividly, when you allow yourself to feel the reality of your vision as though it were already true, you're reprogramming the hologram at the level of vibration. It's a little like tuning a radio. The station was always there, broadcasting, but you couldn't hear it until you matched the frequency. And the moment you do, the static clears, and the music floods in. That's what manifestation truly means. Not forcing reality to comply with your desires, but tuning your inner state until it harmonizes with the version of reality you wish to experience. Once the frequencies match, the external world has no choice but to rearrange itself accordingly. But most people make the mistake of trying to brute force reality from the outside. They push, they strive, they wrestle with the game, and in doing so, they reinforce the illusion of separation. They forget that the game isn't happening to them, it's unfolding through them. The true hack, then, is inner alignment. It's the radical act of choosing joy, curiosity, gratitude, not as a moral virtue, but as a vibrational technology. When you cultivate these states consciously, you alter the field itself. You begin to live in resonance with creation rather than opposition to it. Now, I'm not talking about naive optimism or spiritual bypassing. The game isn't meant to be free of challenge. The tension, the contrast, the friction, these are part of the mechanics that drive evolution. Every challenge is like a riddle posed by the game itself, asking, can you stay awake even here? Even in this difficulty, can you remember that you're playing? That's what mastery looks like. Not escaping the storm, but learning to surf the waves. Because reality, as strange as it sounds, loves to be shaped by awareness. It's responsive. It's participatory. When you engage it consciously, it becomes playful, almost mischievous. You'll start to notice that the universe seems to wink back at you, as if saying, "Ah, I see you figured it out." And once that dialogue begins, the game transforms from survival to synchronicity. You find yourself in the right place, at the right time, meeting the right people, receiving the right signs. You start moving with the current, instead of thrashing against it.
This is when the game becomes a lucid dream. In a lucid dream, you realize that everything around you, the trees, the sky, the people, is made of the same luminous substance as your own awareness. You can shape it not by command, but by expectation.
You simply know something will happen, and it does. The dream obeys because you and the dream are one and the same. This too is how life operates. It mirrors the certainty of your inner world. If you expect chaos, you get chaos. If you expect flow, you get flow. But this is not about blind belief. It's about energetic coherence. It's about embodying the vibration of what you seek until it can't help but manifest itself. Think of it as emotional sculpting. Each emotion is a brushstroke on the canvas of your reality. Fear paints one kind of world, love paints another. And you, as the artist, must learn the subtle art of choosing your palette. Now here's where it gets subtle and magnificent. The greatest hack isn't to manifest material things or personal victories. It's to manifest states of consciousness, depth, peace, creativity, awe. Because those states are the true treasure. They're the keys that unlock the deeper levels of the game. When you dwell in awe, for instance, the world responds with wonder. When you dwell in love, it responds with connection. When you dwell in curiosity, it unveils mystery. The universe is an echo chamber of your innermost vibration. And the most astonishing thing happens when you start to live this way. The boundaries of the self begin to dissolve. You no longer feel like a small being navigating a hostile world. You begin to feel like the world itself, dreaming of being human. You move from the center of the stage to the center of the cosmos, and you realize they're the same place. That's the transcendental punchline. The game was never outside of you. It's an inside-out phenomenon. You don't exist in the universe. The universe exists within your consciousness. And once that realization dawns, everything changes. The fear evaporates. The striving quiets. You begin to play not to win, but to express, to dance, to sing your particular pattern into the great harmony of existence. And that's when creation becomes art again. You start living your life like a painter brushing galaxies into being. Each thought, each word, each act becomes a stroke in the masterpiece of the infinite. So, if you want to hack life, really hack it, start with your own vibration. Observe your emotional state like a musician tuning their instrument. Ask yourself, what am I broadcasting right now? Because whatever you're sending out is what the field will echo back to you. And the beautiful thing is, you can change the signal at any moment. You can pause the game, take a deep breath, and choose again. You can say, let's play a new level, and reality will oblige. It has no resistance. It only reflects. So play deliberately, dream vividly, love ferociously, and remember that everything you see, the trees, the cities, the stars, is consciousness playing hide and seek with itself. Because the point of the game was never to reach the end. The point was to remember that you were playing all along. Would you like me to continue with Chunk 4, where McKenna brings it all together, exploring death, transcendence, and the ultimate winning condition of the game, culminating in a meditative ending? Now, my friends, let us follow this trail all the way to its luminous edge. Because if life is a game, then what about death? What happens when the avatar collapses, when the lights go out, when the body, the vessel, ceases to respond? You see, that's the final level,
the great mystery that terrifies and fascinates us in equal measure. But if you've been paying attention, if you've remembered that you are not the character, but the consciousness behind it, then death loses its fangs. It's not the end of the game. It's the next transition screen. Every night when you sleep, you die a little. You dissolve into the void, into that vast, dark sea of unstructured awareness. And yet each morning you reappear, refreshed, restored, reassembled. That's a rehearsal for death. You've done it millions of times, and still the game goes on. The secret is this: you cannot die, because you were never born. Birth and death are phenomena within the simulation, bookends for a story unfolding in time. But consciousness itself is outside time. It is the eternal witness, the player watching the whole narrative unfold like a film. When the body falls away, when the senses dim, the awareness remains. It withdraws from the dream of matter and returns to the infinite playground from which it came. And perhaps after a long breath in that vastness, it whispers, "That was interesting. Let's play again."
Death is not a failure. It's a completion. It's the game saving your progress and inviting you to start anew, armed with deeper wisdom. So the ultimate winning condition, if there is one, is not to avoid death or to accumulate power or to transcend the human condition entirely. It's to remember, in every moment, through every joy and sorrow, that you are the dreamer of it all. When you know that, the fear evaporates. Because how can you fear losing what was never separate from you? How can you mourn the end of a story when you are the author of infinite stories? The only true tragedy is to forget, to fall asleep in the dream and take it too seriously, to believe the game was about survival rather than revelation. Look at how we behave in the modern world. We hoard achievements like digital tokens. We compete endlessly for validation. We chase futures that never arrive. We are so obsessed with progress that we forget the texture of the present moment, the fragrance of being itself. But the game doesn't reward speed. It rewards presence. The slower you go, the more you see. The more you see, the more you awaken to the beauty hidden in plain sight. Have you ever truly watched sunlight ripple through leaves, or the way a child's laughter bends time, or the quiet intelligence behind the pattern of raindrops on a window? That's the game revealing itself, showing you that it was never mechanical. It was always alive, always breathing, always conscious. And this is perhaps the greatest hack of all: to stop trying to win and start trying to awaken. Because awakening is the only victory that cannot be taken from you. It is the realization that even your defeats were divine disguises, moves in a cosmic dance choreographed for your remembering. Now, the ancient mythologies, the psychedelic voyages, the mystical experiences all point toward this same realization. The boundary between self and world is illusory. Consciousness is not contained within your skull. Your skull is contained within consciousness. The body, the planet, the stars, they're not objects floating in space. They are events occurring within the infinite mind that you are. And once you see that, even death becomes a curious adventure. You begin to sense that beyond the veil of this physical level, there are realms upon realms, dimensions of unimaginable creativity and intelligence, all exploring the infinite permutations of being. The game is endless, self-referential, fractal, consciousness dreaming of itself forever.
So when your time comes, when the veil begins to thin and the familiar world dissolves, greet it with wonder. Step through the doorway not as a victim of circumstance, but as an artist completing a masterpiece. Smile at the absurdity of it all. Whisper to yourself, "Of course, this too is part of the game." And in that moment, you'll understand that the game never ends. It merely changes form. But here's the paradoxical twist, the punchline hidden in the code. Once you've truly accepted death, you can finally live. Because life only becomes vibrant, ecstatic, and utterly free when you stop clutching at it. When you stop trying to preserve the avatar, to defend the mask. When you allow the river to carry you instead of building dams against it. Freedom is not found in control. It's found in surrender. It's the moment you stop wrestling the current and realize you are the current. You are the flow itself. And when you live from that awareness, you start to notice something miraculous. Everything conspires in your favor. Even the obstacles are allies. Even the losses are teachings. The entire cosmos rearranges itself to support your awakening. You become a lucid participant in the great unfolding, a conscious wave in the infinite ocean, moving not out of need, but out of joy, out of curiosity, out of love. Because love, you see, is not an emotion in this context. It's the very geometry of existence. It's the force that binds the code together. Love is the recognition of yourself in everything else. It's the remembrance that the game is cooperative, not competitive. That your joy and another's joy are not separate, but reflections of the same radiance. To love, then, is the truest hack. It's the master key that dissolves all illusions of division. When you love freely, without agenda, you bypass the false architecture of fear. You move directly into harmony with the source code of creation. And from that state, everything becomes possible. So how do you play, knowing all this? You play lightly. You play creatively. You play with reverence and humor. You stop judging the moves of others because you recognize they too are learning the contours of the game in their own way. You see that even their confusion serves the larger unfolding. You stop needing to fix the world because you realize the world is not broken. It's evolving, like you. And then, one morning, you might wake up and find that life no longer feels like a struggle. The weight has lifted. The game has become transparent. You move through it with the ease of someone who knows the ending but delights in the details anyway. You laugh more. You trust more. You listen to the silence between your thoughts and hear the hum of infinity there. That's what it means to hack the game. To wake up inside it. To see through it but still love it. To hold the paradox of illusion and truth without needing to choose between them. Because the true master of the game doesn't escape it. The true master plays it beautifully. So here we are, travelers in eternity, pretending to be human for a while. Let's play well. Let's play kindly. Let's remember the rules were never binding. They were invitations to creativity. Let's meet each challenge with curiosity,
each joy with gratitude, and each ending with awe. And when it's over, when the screen fades to black and the stars fold in on themselves, let's smile, knowing that the player never dies. It only reawakens somewhere else, ready to begin another round. After all, what could consciousness do but keep playing? It's too beautiful to stop. Game on, my friends. Game on.